This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Drive axle front replacement. Apply the parking brake. Chock the rear wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Loosen the front wheel lug nuts. Place a floor jack under the unibody side pinch weld. Raise the front of the vehicle, then support it with a jack stand placed under the indicated supporting marker. Repeat this on the opposite side where applicable. Remove the front wheel lug nuts and remove the wheels. Remove the various bolts that retain the front engine undershield. With the front engine undershield removed, remove the rear undershield. Insert a large punch or screwdriver into a disc cooling vane and allow it to rest against the caliper. Then unscrew and remove the drive axle hub nut. Remove the brake hose bracket retaining bolt and detach the hose from the bracket. Remove the lower ball joint pinch bolt and nut. With a large pry bar positioned in the control arm cutout, pry the control arm downward and wiggle the steering knuckle free from the control arm ball joint stud. This step is much easier when performed with the help of an assistant. To loosen the drive axle from the hub spleens, tap the end of the drive axle with a hammer and brass punch. Pull the knuckle outward and separate the outer drive axle shaft spleens from the steering knuckle. Note that it's a good idea to suspend the outer end of the drive axle with a bungee cord or a piece of wire to prevent damaging the joints. If you are removing the right side drive axle, remove the two intermediate shaft bearing support bolts and cap. Carefully slide the drive axle intermediate shaft out of the transaxle and remove the drive axle assembly. Position a pry bar against the inner joint and carefully pry the joint out of the transaxle, then guide the drive axle out of the fender well. Before you install the drive axle, check the condition of the transaxle seal. If there's evidence of a leak, you'll want to replace the seal after removing the drive axle. The seal is easily damaged by the spleens on the drive axle, which can cut the seal and cause a fluid leak. Apply some transmission fluid to the seal before installing the drive axle. Inspect the inner CV joint resting surface of the drive axle. It should be smooth around the circumference. Using a small pick tool or screwdriver, carefully replace the circlip on the inner joint. Make sure the outer joint spleens and threads are clean and in good condition. Clean and lubricate the inner joint spleens with some transmission fluid. When installing the drive axle into the transaxle, the circlip opening should be facing down. Without causing damage to the seal, carefully install the drive axle into the transaxle and support the outer joint. Push the inner joint in sharply to seat the drive axle circlip. To make sure the circlip is properly seated, attempt to pull the inner CV joint housing out of the transaxle by hand. If the circlip is properly seated, the inner joint will not move out. For the right side drive axle, install the intermediate shaft bearing cap and tighten the nuts to the specified torque settings in the following stages. Lubricate the outer spleens with multi-purpose grease, then insert the outer drive axle spleens into the steering knuckle. Using the pry bar, pry down on the lower control arm and install the lower ball joint stud back into place in the steering knuckle. Make sure the metal clip stays stationary when doing this. Install the lower control arm pinch bolt and nut. Tighten the control arm pinch bolt and nut to the specified torque setting. Install a new drive axle nut, screwing it into place using a continuous rotation motion. Attach the brake hose to the bracket and tighten the remaining bolts securely. Using the same method to prevent the hub from turning, tighten the drive axle hub nut to the specified torque setting. Tighten the drive axle hub nut an additional 90 degrees. Install the rear, then the front engine undershield, and tighten the fastener securely by hand to prevent the threaded plastic from cross-threading. Install the wheels and lug nuts. Lower the front of the vehicle to the ground. Tighten the wheel lug nuts to the specified torque setting. Release the parking brake.